Good afternoon. It's Wednesday. I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, and welcome to the Pastor's Chat. I always think it's a little funny, this word chat. It's not a word that I ever used. Never. I would never say, oh, let's get together and have a chat. It's not a word I've ever used, and so I'm trying still to carry it around. But it's a pastor's chat. So I'm here. I'm the pastor of the High Mountain Presbyterian Church. I always like to sign on in case some of you are just coming across this and finding it now that it's out there on YouTube and on Facebook. People are, from time to time, just stumbling across it and say, what is that guy doing sitting on that chair? What's he talking about? And so they tune in, and maybe you're one of those people. I started doing this chat as a way of compensating for what I anticipated was going to be a great grief of isolation. I am a very social person. I enjoy interaction with people. I don't like it when the relationships don't go well, and sometimes I want to give it up from time to time, but I do like social interaction. I really like conversation. Really like conversation. So it made sense to me, I guess, that it occurred to me to set up a place where I could think about having a conversation with you. Every time I say this, I think of you, my dear friends, who are thinking, you know what, the COVID isolation, it's no big deal. I've been isolated now for several years. You know, I've been living in my house. Maybe you're the person that I know who really isn't able to get around by themselves. You need an aide to kind of help you, or you're used to this new life of being alone. And it just gives me great joy to be able to talk with you, to talk to you. And then I get silly, giddy almost, when I really get confirmation that you're there, and you write to me, and you say to me points of contact. My email address, by the way, is revlouie@aol.com. I use R-E-V-L-O-U-I-E. That's the pronunciation of my name, Louis. Never really liked it that much because it always felt diminutive. And besides, there were those three ducks, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Never really felt like I could be a grown-up person with a name like Louie. But I like it now. I've become reacquainted with it, and I like it in my email address, revlouie. It gives people pause sometimes to call me Louie. So that's what happens when you have a pastor's chat. You just end up talking about things that come up. So I was reading in my little book today, one of my favorite philosophers of despair and existentialism was Soren Kierkegaard. I love to read him. I do. And I wanted to just read this little excerpt. I'm sorry I haven't read to you before, but maybe I'll start doing that. I'll read stories to you during the pastor's chat. He writes, "To live in the religious spirit is not easy. The believer is continually on a deep sea, 70,000 fathoms deep. It is a great thing floating on 70,000 fathoms of water, and beyond all human aid, to be happy. It is a little thing, and not at all religious, to swim in shallow water with a host of waders with you. No matter how long the religious man lies out there, it does not mean that little by little he will reach land again. He or she can become quieter. They can attain a sense of security. They can love jests and the merry mind. But to the last moment, he is floating, lying over 70,000 fathoms of water. Soren Kierkegaard. I don't know if you had the experience of being on a ship out in the ocean when you lose sight of land. I've never been on a cruise, and mainly it's because I get really seasick. I'm very motion sickness sensitive. When I was a kid, I would always get car sick, but my siblings believed it was because I wanted to ride in the front next to mom and dad. And with 7 kids jammed in the back of a little Ford station wagon, 2 of us laying in what we called the backpack. Saying I feel sick and I'm going to throw up would get you out of the jammed back of the car, right in between mom and dad. Wow, what a place to sit, the place of honor. But I was sick, so it was not a privilege. So I've not traveled really to wake up, walk out on the deck and see no land. But I can imagine, I have been on large bodies of water where you can't see land, the Great Lakes. And more than not seeing this way, I am usually aware when the water is very, very deep. Very deep. And Kierkegaard equates the sense of being a person of faith as floating, because floating is a spiritual mystery in and of itself. The body is dense. We weigh more than a rock, but we float. So that's a mystery in and of itself. But to be floating in shallow water, okay, but you get a little, you on your back and you get some water in your nose, you cough and you let your feet drop and you touch bottom. But when you're floating on 70,000 fathoms of water, now that's faith. That's what faith feels like. There is a confidence to it, but let's not minimize what faith is. Faith is trusting in that which you can't see. I think it was in the movie Indiana Jones, in one of those crazy adventure archaeology movies, where our little band of heroes was trying to make their way to find the Holy Grail or something, and they came out through a cave, and they were in this big cavern, this huge cavern. It looked like you could see down forever, and there they are on the edge of it. And in order to get across, they had to step out as if there was a bridge there. And until they committed and put their foot out and then leaned into the confidence that a bridge they couldn't see was there, and the bridge couldn't be seen, it couldn't be felt until they committed to it. Kierkegaard would have loved that. I actually think that comes out of ancient Chinese lore. Once they put their first foot on it and realized that even though they couldn't see it, it would hold them, then it was easy to take the next step and the next step, and they were walking across a bridge that could not be seen. able to see right straight down to the floor of the cavern. Kierkegaard says that's living the religious life. It comes and goes for me, this great feeling of uncertainty that stirred in my life back in March. It was a little bit of a recipe of mingle of fear, excitement, unknowing, and turn on a blender and mix them all up, and you had me back in March. The months and weeks since have allowed for me to create some really wonderful new traditions. This one, I'm really becoming very comfortable with the virtual service and preaching online, and then the feedback and conversation that comes is working. You can't compare them. They're very different. My work is the same. I've been driven now for 35 years for preaching a sermon every week. I study the scripture, I pray, I hope that by the time it comes to preach that I can feel the confidence of what it is. I don't always feel it, but a lot of times I feel very good. I'm always relieved when it's over. But it comes back around, this feeling of 70,000 fathoms. And my life is like me laying out here on this body of water. I'm not afraid. That's not what I feel. Just I'm aware. I'm aware of our precarious position in life. Unrest in the government is a serious thing for me. Wars and rumors of wars are both very much the same. Fears about divisions among human beings. I know in families and in communities that things can get out of control. And the flashpoint, all of a sudden, just the polarities become sparks. And the next thing you know, it can be 30 years later and no one even remembers what started it. History will show us that. It will show us those experiences. Sometimes it's between nations, sometimes it's within nations. I'm a person of faith. I try to remember that there's a way to live in this uncertainty that doesn't deprive you of joy, real joy. There's a way to live with uncertainty that you can even be active and engaging and trying to bring joy and love to others. It does not need to paralyze us. By faith we walk. And that is not of ourselves. It's a gift. It is a gift. Wow, the time has raced by, but I know it's time for me to end today because I've arrived at my prayer. I have. My prayer for you, my friends, and for me is faith. Faith. I'm not talking about the brassy, shiny kind that, changes your whole life in the snap of a second. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about faith. I'm talking about the deep, abiding faith, a confidence that comes from God. And you know it came from outside of you, because you know you couldn't have generated it yourself. So I pray for faith. Because faith sets us free then to do the works of love and compassion. We don't have to be obsessed with our fears or our worries about what might happen. We jump in, step out. So I pray for increased faith for you, my friends. The good kind. The kind that helps you to walk when you can't see. That helps you to feel confident when you don't know. Faith. Faith for you and faith for us, that we'll have faith in each other, that we will not lose faith, that we will have faith in, the African American church has in its tradition, God didn't bring us this far just to leave us here. We're going to be carried on to where God wants us to go and to be, and it's by faith that we'll get there. So God, pour out faith in our lives. Pour it out. Let it be abundant. Let it be abundant in your life, in my life, in the lives of those that we love, and in the lives of those who we don't understand their motivations or what's going on. Let faith rule the day. It's Wednesday. Let's make this faith day. All right, my friends, it's been good to share with you in this conversation. I'm sure that if you had come in actually for a time to chat with me, we'd chat much longer. Because I told you I like to talk and I like to listen. I do. I will talk to you tomorrow. I hope you'll be well till then. I hope you're well now. If not, my prayers are for you to be well. And I will see you tomorrow.